morning. Good morning. Let's see. Let me get my stuff all situated here. I'm excited and ready for Tuesday Tuneups today. Hello, my beautiful friend. Good to have you all here today for Tuesday Tuneups. So you guys you should be able to see my screen, right? All right. We are going to get started in just a quick moment while people are logging in. We have a new link this week, so I think it might have messed some people up, but that's okay. We are recording it, so it will also be available a little bit later today on my YouTube channel. So, all right. And I have a new home office. I don't know if you can see my new office back here, but I got my office mostly cleared out and new furniture, so I'm excited about that. Can you guys all hear me okay? Good. All right, let's dive in. Good morning, everybody. This is Marguerite Crespillo, and I'm here today with another fabulous Tuesday Tune-Up. Funny thing, I started Tuesday Tune-Ups, gosh, probably, I feel like it's been almost 20 years, but maybe not, maybe 15 years ago. And I originally started it because I would get agents who would ask me questions all the time about what I was doing, how it was working, how I was accomplishing the success at that time of what I was doing. And so I wanted to consolidate my time. So I said, tell you what, every Tuesday, I'm going to spend time and open my doors and be available to answer questions and offer help. And it became really popular. And so, of course, when things changed, I took it onto Zoom so that I could reach more people. And it's always fun to me to see people from around the country and realize that as agents, we have the same challenges as everybody else, right? And one of the biggest challenges that I hear from agents is lack of systems, checklists, and processes, right? Oh my, I said it like the lions and tigers and bears, oh my. And so I realize that the biggest challenge that people have are these lack of systems. And as agents, the funny thing is that God does not put a manager and a salesperson in the same body, right? And so agents historically are not great managers. They're not great managers of their time, of their systems, of their processes. And what happens many times is an agent gets to a point where they're too busy. And next thing, they grab the first person who's close to them that is breathing, they throw them in a desk, they pile a bunch of crap on their desk, and they use the seagull approach, right? They fly by, dump a bunch of junk on their desk, and fly out. They come back a couple of weeks later, and they are frustrated that staff person, that employee, did not just move in and create miracles and take care of everything for them. And the biggest reason for that is because the agent doesn't have any systems or processes or checklists that they would like to follow. And so then the other second part of that problem is the employee creates a system. If they're good, they'll create a system for the agent. The agent's, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And next thing you know, that employee leaves and the agent is back to square one, starting all over again. So let's dive in and talk about this a little bit today. And the biggest reason to me is the problem with expectations. Here's the dilemma with expectations. An expectation many times is like this secret in your head, meaning you have expectations that you have set or created for staff people or for people that work around you. The problem is they don't know what those expectations are. The same thing happens for buyers and sellers, right? Buyers and sellers have these expectations of what the real estate or loan process is going to look like. And they don't express that to anybody, those expectations are created from their Google searches, right? And YouTube videos and their family and friends that tell them what it's supposed to be like. And truth be told, they don't have any idea of what the process is like. And no one explained it to them, including you as the agent, right? So buyers and sellers have these expectations of how things are going to go. You as an agent have expectations of what the lender is going to do, the other agent's going to do, the inspectors are going to do, title and escrow, the attorneys, on and on. And the problem is those expectations are not really outlined where they make the most amount of sense for a consumer or the other person, right? So let's talk about expectations. In my opinion, the expectation is the definition from the dictionary, is the act or the state of expecting. You're sitting around and waiting for someone to do something a certain way. And this is where a lot of problems start to arise. So we're going to talk about checklists, and we're going to talk about different types of checklists. This is a long list of the different types of checklists that we have and utilize on my team. I've done classes on many of these checklists, so you can search my YouTube for them and look at the overviews. For example, I have my initial client discussion checklist for buyers, for sellers, lots and lots seller net sheet. These are all classes that we've done on Tuesday Tuneups. So you can go back and look through the archives on YouTube and find these classes. But let's actually talk about the value of checklists. And I'll tell you what's most important about a checklist is that if you actually follow them, they will create consistency in your business. I'll tell you the main reason that I created a checklist is because early on in my career, I read a fantastic book called The E-Myth, The Entrepreneurial Myth by Dr. Michael Gerber. He then actually fast forwarded and wrote one also for real estate, but I still love the original that he wrote called The E-Myth, The E-Myth, The Entrepreneurial Myth by Dr. Michael Gerber. And here's what happens is that many times in many situations, people don't have any kind of an order or process to what they follow. In the book, what he talks about is McDonaldizing your business. Now, granted, McDonald's doesn't make great burgers, but what I can tell you is that you can go just about anywhere in the world and get a Big Mac, and it's going to be the same anywhere in the world, right? And that consistency is what consumers and people rely on. They rely on the fact that they can go to any McDonald's and get the same Big Mac anywhere. Now, with that said, the real estate process, truth be told, you guys, is pretty consistent throughout the country. There might be small tweaks and tips and things like that might be a little bit different in your market, but overall, the process is generally the same. For example, I've used my same client discussion checklist now for close to 25 years. Now, why did I create that initial client discussion checklist to begin with? Because I wanted to assume, and I did assume, that nobody else in the transaction was doing their job. And so that checklist was created out of desperation to address common mistakes that happen in a real estate process. And what that checklist does is it creates consistency. Like I said, here's what it can ultimately do. Many of you have heard me tell the story of Linda Buckmaster and how in 1997, she bought a $50,000 HUD home from me, right? That $50,000 HUD home ultimately resulted in her buying and selling 8 homes through me, 75 referrals in the past, well, it's now been 20 some odd years, and over $400,000 in commissions. Now that comes out to about $15,000 a year, about $1,200 a month, all from that initial investment with Linda. And if I break that into value per client, it comes out to $5,033 per client she's referred. So my current database consists of about 2,100 people. If each person in my database is worth $5,000, that ultimately gives my value to my database over $11 million. Now, if you knew that simply reconnecting with your database and creating checklists and consistency, without a doubt, you were going to make over $11 million in the next 10 years, would you do the work? Would you put in the time? Would you make the calls, right? Would you create the checklist that you need to create? And so, truth be told, it all starts with the ultimate client experience. Now, here's the second part I want you to hear about this whole thing. Actually, let me tell you a story about Bob Townsend. I was 22 years old and a receptionist at a mortgage company, and I was having a bad day and complaining about my manager, right? Big mistake. Bob happened to walk into the office and he overheard me and he said, "I'd love to give you a little piece of advice, unsolicited advice." He said, "Never burn a bridge. You never know who you're going to be working for or who's going to work for you. So when I say this, I'm not only talking about your clients, but remember that it is more likely that you will work with the same real estate agent, lender, title, escrow people, inspectors, etc. And so it's vital that you create an experience for everyone in the transaction that you're proud of and people will talk about. And can I just add in how important it is to not complain about people on social media? You never know who is watching or listening. And so what do you want the ultimate client experience to look like? In other words, this is how we really map out a checklist. And you can start simple. You guys, you can create a very simple checklist that it goes in and it talks about how you want that experience to look like, right? You can create a simple checklist of what you want to have happen with your marketing or your initial client discussion checklist, or lots of reasons and ways that you can create a checklist. But let's talk about what it looks to map it out. For example, what do you want to have happen with your clients before they actually start to work with you or before they actually go into contract? For example, we do upfront client appointments with people. That essentially is my initial client discussion checklist. And what that initial client discussion checklist is, that it outlines what's going to happen during the real estate process to our client. It's going to be either the buyer side or the listing side. And so take an hour out of your schedule each week and sit and dream for a moment. Outline, what do you want that client experience to look like? Not only before they go under contract, but during the contract and after it closes. What do you want that experience to look like for your clients, for your buyers and sellers, okay? And so start by mapping out the client journey. What does it look like, again, before, during, and after the sale? What do you want that experience to be like for your client? And I promise, if you guys take this time to work on your business, not necessarily in your business, what do I mean by that? Working in your business is the daily activities that you're doing with clients when you're in front of clients. Income producing time, right? Working on your business is, what do you want that business to look like overall? You all are self-employed. You all are building and growing your own business, whether you're part of a team, which you can then duplicate and replicate what's being done on the team, or whether you're operating independently on your own. But you each are independent contractors and building a business of your own. So what can you do to map out that client experience? What does it look like, again, before, during, and after? Next, you're going to want to decide what you need to say and do while they're going through that process of buying or selling a home. Now, I'm not talking about exact scripting of everything you do, but it might be as much as that. It might be, this is the scripting of the email I want to go out. This is the language I want used by my staff or employees, or even by yourself. In the beginning, it was just me. And when it was just me, I wanted to make sure that I remembered things, to do things the same way every time. That consistency is what people can count on and rely on, and know that when they refer people to you, that their referrals are going to experience the same thing. Now, next, you're going to want to determine what things you want to take place also after the sale is completed, right? A big mistake that agents make is they close the deal, they break up with them, and they're done, right? They don't follow up. They don't stay engaged with them. They don't make sure that the client knows that they didn't just one and done, run and grab their commission check and move on. So what do you want that experience to look like after the sale? Step 4 is decide how to keep that excitement going by engaging with your clients to deepen the relationship. We've talked about this also on previous Tuesday Tuneups, where we talked about client events and sending letters out to your database and a number of other things, right? And so it's important to understand that you want to keep that excitement going by engaging with your clients to deepen that relationship. So let's talk about an example of something that we've created called the starting bell to celebration day. Now, I know this is really little, so you can't see it. And this was developed many years ago, and we still use most of the things on this today. So let's go through and break it down kind of step by step. First of all, what do you want to happen when a client initially calls you? Okay, so a client calls to say, hey there, I'm interested in buying or selling a home through you, or hey, my sister Sally referred me to you. If you have a receptionist, you can make sure that lead is identified by the receptionist, meaning who are they, who referred them? Like one of the first questions we'll always ask is, thank you so much for calling me, Sally. May I ask who referred you to me? First of all, that creates a training, right? And that trains that consumer, that client, to understand that the majority of your business is referral. And so they want to understand that, right? Or maybe they say, no, I saw you off of a Google ad, or I saw your reviews on Zillow, or different things like this, right? And so then you can now start to actually track your business. And we have additional trainings we've done on how we track our business and where it comes from. If you talk to anyone on my team, the first thing we'll always ask is, where did the client come from? Where did the client come from? Because we want to know what systems and processes are working, what advertising mediums are working, what different things like that is working to generate business. So if you look at this, we always make sure that everyone is logged into our database program. And again, whatever database program you use is fine. They are entered, we request their financing profile and pre-approval letter from the lender, or refer to a lender partner if they don't have a lender. Has the lead been entered onto your lead tracking system? If they are a referred client, are we following the referral process checklist, right? And making sure that their tree is in our all clients database. Has an appointment been set? Was the appointment set and confirmed in the agent's calendar and a reminder sent to the client, right? An initial client packet is prepared. We'll send out an email. We don't send snail mail appointment confirmations anymore, but we also send out an ultimate scenario, our ultimate scenario form, and directions to our office if we're meeting them in person. When the client arrives, what do we want that experience to look like? Do we have a little menu in the office of refreshments, sodas, things like that we can give out? We want to make sure that that everyone in our office knows that the client is there. We want to make sure that the realtor is referring the ultimate scenario form, that the realtor is presenting our initial presentation using our client discussion checklist, right? Ideally, we want to have a picture taken of the client at our initial appointment. Setting up home search booklets or online listing and search portals, right? All great stuff that we want to make sure the client is experiencing. What do we want that experience to look like after the client leaves? So again, are we sending out a thank you note, a personal thank you note, right? Do we put the picture in our database so we know what they look like? All of these things are really important. Follow up and daily tasks. Are you doing weekly check-ins? Are you calling the client and making sure that they're getting their listing portals and scheduling showing times, or preparing packets for feedback forms? All of these are things that you can look at and choose what you want your client to experience. During the writing and negotiation of contracts, if you're on my team, you understand that the very first thing I'll do with a client is we create a Google Drive folder. In that Google Drive folder, we have a copy of their pre-approval letter, their proof of funds, any other details or notes that we need to know about that client, right? So all of that is actually saved in our Google Drive. When we write offers, we create a folder for that particular property address and make sure that all of the details of that sale are in there. You guys, it sounds like it's a lot of work up front, but what I will tell you is that it saves you an incredible amount of time in the long run. For example, I was explaining to my team the other day how I might have had a call from a client who wanted to list their home. And in listing their home, we went through the comps process. Then maybe they decided they were going to wait 6 months or wait a year. And I literally have had saved all of those comps from every time they called me. In fact, I might even have, when I actually sold them, most of the time I have the folder still from when I sold them that home all the years before. Now, from those of you who are new or newer, imagine having 30 years worth of documentation and folders and information on clients that you've sold homes to. It is incredibly valuable. What do you want that experience to look like during the process? Here's a key I want to highlight for you guys. When you are submitting and writing and submitting offers, please always call, email, and text the listing agent, notifying them that you have sent an offer. I cannot tell you how many times I have had offers come in that I never even saw, or I saw them days later after it's been presented because the agent never told me. They ended up going into my junk folder, or they ended up forwarding me a DocuSign with the documents. Please don't ever do that. Take the time to organize your email, put together the documents, put together all of the details for the offer. The smoother and cleaner we can create for the listing agent, the higher the odds are of you getting your offers accepted. So really important information. So follow this process and checklist of what you want that experience to look like. Once the offer is accepted, what do you want that experience to look like? Making sure your transaction management department, if you have one, or your TC has all the details that they need. Making sure they're included on emails and documents, sharing that Google Drive folder with them that has all the details you created, right? All of this to me is essential. There should also be a congratulations call to your client from you. If you have a team leader, make sure your team leader knows about it so they can do a congratulations call, right? Making sure that the email from your transaction coordinator goes out the same way every time. If you have a contract TC, you can also explain to them how you want your stuff handled. So these are all things to think about when you are creating your checklist and throughout the process. What else do you want to have happen? Do you want little letters going out during the process? Do you want our moving day kits that we put together? What is the experience, and what are all the little details that you want your client to go through? Now, are you showing up at your signings? If you guys are not attending your signings, I strongly recommend that you do. This is very important, because guess what the biggest number on the closing documents are after their loan amount? It's commissions. And guess what? I have seen how many times agents are not showing up at your signings. Now more and more signings are being done with a mobile notary at their home. Should you go to their home and be there for the signing? 100%, absolutely. So I encourage you guys to make sure that you're attending this. This is a great time to build the relationship and make sure that they know how important that they are to you. Next process would be after celebration day. What do you want to have happen after celebration day? Meaning once they've closed on their transaction, what can you do to continue and maintain that relationship to generate referrals? For example, are thank you notes sent out? Are you calling them 7 days, 30 days, 90 days, 6 months after? Are you doing annual reviews? These are all things, again, that we've done in Tuesday Tuneup. So you can find annual review Tuesday Tuneup on my YouTube channel and go check it out. Are you also doing client events after the fact? If you're not putting together client events, you can also participate in other people's. And again, we have examples of these client events that you have seen on my Tuesday Tuneups that you can go check out, and trainings on them. So at the end of the day, what are all the different types of checklists that you can create? You can create, again, starting build a celebration day for agents. You can create a seller net sheet preparation checklist. You can create initial client discussion checklists for buyers and sellers. You can create a marketing checklist for sellers prepping for sale, and photographer checklists, right? Marketing checklist for sellers, inspection checklists, which ones buyers should choose from and what the costs are. Also a checklist for sellers to prepare them for checklists to go out to sellers, right? So that sellers can get prepared for inspections happening. Disclosure review checklist, so you can go over all of these. Letters to sellers on what to expect while on the market, under contract, getting ready to close. Letters to buyers of what to expect, searching for a home now that you're in contract, getting ready to close. And your eyes are probably glazing over and you're wondering, oh my gosh, how am I going to create all these checklists? You guys, first of all, I did not do them overnight. And yes, we have examples of them, again, in the YouTube and the trainings that we have. And I encourage you to spend just 1 hour a week, maybe even 30 minutes a week, outlining what you want that process to look like. The value of checklists, I'll remind you again, are that they create consistency. But most importantly, that is if you actually follow them, right? So this is an important aspect of what you can do each time you want your client to experience things a certain way. So do you guys have any questions before we wrap up today? I know that was relatively quick. I see a question there. You had a question about the events checklist. Let me go back to that. These are examples of all different kinds of client events. And there's an entire training about how to host and hold great events on my Tuesday Tuneups on YouTube that you guys can follow. We're also working on creating a web page where we can consolidate all of this for you. But this is an example of lots of different types of client events. So I would go search YouTube and find the client event training. Any other questions?
Marguerite, these checklists are amazing.
Thank you.
Put it mildly. I know you're extremely generous with your material. Do you have all the checklists available for us on your Facebook page?
So a lot of them are not, I do not think they're on Facebook. A lot of them are on the YouTube trainings. Okay. And I'm actually working right now on updating and revising a lot of these checklists to put them all in a package. So if there's one particular that you want, you can reach out to me and message me and I should be able to find it. But right now we're taking all of those checklists and we're updating them and rebranding them. So I should have them available here in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome.
You're welcome. Any other questions, comments? All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me on Tuesday Tuneups. As always, it's great to see you. And we do this every week, open to anybody with any company. So feel free to join and share, and I'll see you next week. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Marguerite. Appreciate it.